So here we have our main menu. When I hit play, we randomly get weather events. In this case, we've gotten both the fog and the thunderstorm effect. And we also have random boats that play in the background. If we hit close and start again, you can see in this case we've only gotten the fog. And you can also make it so that these events are only encounterable if you have actually found them already in your normal gameplay. Hi, I'm Ricky. Today we're making a main menu in Unity. This video has been requested by a specific user, so hello. We'll start by making some very simple UI, but the main focus of the video will be on adding random animations that play in the background. If you want to download the entire project, or if you want to know how the finished product will look like, links in the description. Alright, so let's start. Here we have our main menu scene. As you can see, we only have one button that goes to the next scene right now. I've imported the design sprite, so now in the canvas, just gonna create a new image. I've also added a text inside of it, very simple stuff, and then I'm gonna duplicate it. And we're gonna use this second sign as the button event. So let's add a button component in here. And for the onClick event, we just copy the one that we have here, load level button. So scene function, and we load the next scene. And we can delete the old button. And now one thing that is bothering me, you can see here I want the sign to be behind the other sign, so it looks like it's hanging from it and not in front of it. So one thing you can do is just change the hierarchy. This way it goes behind it. Another way we could do this is if we want to have it like this in a hierarchy, or let's say that this sign image is the child of the second sign image, so we can't change the hierarchy however we want. What we can do is adding a component called Raycaster. Graphic Raycaster, which automatically also adds a canvas component. What we can do is click on the canvas part called Override Sorting, and then we can change this value here to tell Unity how to render stuff. So if we say 1, by default all the values are 0, so if we say 1, it goes on top of it. You can see, oh, hold on. Yeah, this way you can see better. You can see that now it's on top of it. If I say -1, it goes behind it, even if on the hierarchy it should be on top of it. That's just a little something I wanted to show you anyway. We can remove this. Oops, we can remove this and just place it on top and move it down. But in case you're wondering why it's not rendering on top or behind it the way you want to, remember that if you can't change the hierarchy, you can add that Graphic Raycaster component. Anyway, we are done now with the UI. It's very simple, but it will do for now. Now let's start with adding the animations. So we have the moving background, the boat movements, and the random weather. For the moving background, it's really simple. Let's go to the level. Let's select the sea background. Let's copy them, paste it here, and we're good to go. You can see that it works already. Also, the button loads the level, so no mistakes here. For the random boat, it's a bit more complicated. Let's start by making a boat, much like with our player. And let's put it outside of the screen. Now let's add an animator component, and let's make a new animator. Let's feed it to the boat. Let's add the animation window right here, and let's start animating. So let's create a new animation clip. We're gonna make more than just one clip, so I'm gonna add a 1 at the end indicating the index. Alright, so for the properties, I'm just going to make a very simple position and rotation animation. Alright, let's see how it looks. Pretty simple, just moving from one corner to the other. Now let's open the Animator tab, so Window, Animation, Animator. In here, we don't want the main menu boat 1 animation to run at start. Let's add an empty state. Let's mark it as the default one. We do this because we're going to call main menu boat1 manually. So let's also add a transition to go into empty. And while we're here, let's also set the animation to not be on loop. Now let's go back to the scene, to project, let's select our boat, and let's make and add a new component called main menu boat animation. In here, let's add a reference to our animator. And let's also play our animation with a random delay. So let's make a new function and use invoke. Of course, we want multiple clips, so let's also make a new variable for our animation clip name. Make sure to use float values, this way we have even more randomness. Finally, when the animation ends, we want to add a random delay and then start the animation again. But you don't have a way to know when the animation has ended. You could just add a delay at the start and make sure that the delay is equal to the animation's length, but that's not the elegant way to do it. Instead, let's make a callback from an animation event. Let's first make a function. And now let's go back to Unity, select our boat, animation panel, and at the end of the clip, let's add an animation event. If we select this event, we have this panel here, and you can call a function that is present inside our boat. So you can see we have both start animation and on animation end. Let's select on animation end, and now we have a callback to the end of the animation. So now back to the script, we just call start animation again with another random delay. Also notice that we don't need public functions for animation events. Alright, back to Unity. We just need to add the clip name, so we just add a 1 here. And if we hit play, after a while it starts, and then it repeats, and you can see that the intervals are random. So now if we want to add another boat, it's really simple. We just duplicate it, change the name, and make a new animation. Then in our animator, we add the animation and set the new transition. Finally, we select the new boat and change this new animation. If we hit play, you can see that now we have the second boat and it all looks more lively. I'm not gonna bother and put any more boats, but if you want to, you can add as many as you want. Now for the next part, let's add random weather events. Let's go back to our level scene and let's take the fog game object and the night animation panel and lighting animation panel. Make sure to put the panels in the canvas, and now in our manager, let's also add a fog and thunderstorm script. Let's put in the references. And now let's make a new script to call these events at random. In here, let's make a new function to randomly call the fog and thunderstorm scripts. And because we're using singletons, we don't want to call this function on awake. We could change the script execution order, we could add direct references, but I think the easiest solution is simply to call this function on awake with a very brief delay. By giving an extremely small delay to the function, we're basically calling this function one frame later. So in the first frame of the game, the singletons are going to be set up, and in the second frame, we're going to call this function. A very nice workaround. Now the only problem right now is that if we go into our fog script, inside the function to activate the fog, we also activate the lantern and we unlock an achievement. So let's add a new parameter to say whether we want to call the entire function or not. Then let's go back to main menu weather events and let's say true. And if you go to Unity, we are going to get an error in unlock enemies manager. So in here we just say false because we want to call the entire function, it's not animation only. If we go back to Unity, also because the play sign is a button, we don't want other stuff to be on top of it, that way we won't be able to press it. So let's also bring this here. If we didn't and we get the night and lightning animation, you can see that right now it works, I can press it, but if I bring them down here, the signs are going to be covered in them and I can't recast the button. Finally, last thing I can add back in our script, back in main menu weather events, one thing that you can do, and I've done in my game, is to make it so that these events are only encounterable if you've already seen them in your normal game. So to do that, we just simply add another requirement. And if you remember, we have an achievement system in which we remember if we have encountered stuff. So we just say player prefs, and we call that achievement string. This way it's going to look as if the main menu is evolving with the player's gameplay, which I think is really nice. To do that with the thunderstorm, it's exactly the same, we just change the enum to indicate the thunderstorm achievement. In this case, we haven't set up an enum yet for the thunderstorm, but you get the idea. I'm gonna turn this off real quick just to give you a final test. So here we have our main menu. When I hit play, we randomly get weather events. In this case, we've gotten both the fog and the thunderstorm effect, and we also have random boats that play in the background. If we hit close and start again, you can see in this case we've only gotten the fog. And you can also make it so that these events are only encounterable if you've actually found them already in your normal gameplay. Alright, so that's it for this video. Hope you learned something new. If you like this content and you want more, please like and subscribe. If you have any doubts about the code or any suggestion that you'd like me to see, do tell me in the comments. Alright, I'll see you next video. Bye!